Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Humza Yousaf has been described as untrustworthy. I'm sure it's not the first time, or even the 10th time, that he's been called that. I doubt it will be the last. But this particular one has got some serious consequences. It's all to do with the lives and well-being of people. People who were butchered by a brain surgeon in Dundee. Indeed, just last month at the Independence rally in Dundee, a woman accosted Humza Yousaf on the floor of the chamber and begged him for a public inquiry, and he indicated that that would be the case. It now turns out the SNP are going in what he calls a different direction. In other words, there'll be no inquiry, there'll be a cover-up, and nobody will get punished because nothing ever goes wrong in the utopia that is Scottish SNP land. It's an absolute joke. Well, now people are calling him out and demanding he changes policy. We're going to have a look at this, see what terrible things have happened to these people and why they deserve justice. Here goes. So, untrustworthy Humza Yousaf called out as Michael Matheson refuses the Eljamel public inquiry plea. Michael Matheson, obviously the Health Secretary. Eljamel being the Butcher of Dundee. A man who goes in and just basically screws with people's brains, quite literally making matters far, far worse. God knows how he ever became a brain surgeon. The Scottish Government has been urged to start a public inquiry into why the shamed surgeon was able to operate at NHS Tayside for so long. Humza Yousaf and Michael Matheson have been branded untrustworthy after the Health Secretary appeared to rule out a public inquiry into shamed surgeon Professor Sam Eljamel. What is it about health secretaries in Scotland? Because you've got, you've got this one who's basically going back on his word. Before that, you had Humza Yousaf, who, don't have to say anything. Before that, you've got Jean Freeman, one of the Shipman sisters. I mean, it's the worst job to have in the Scottish Government, isn't it? Anyway, Dr. Eljamel is thought to have harmed hundreds of patients while employed at the NHS Tayside. Campaigners say no one at the Health Board has been held to account for the actions of Eljamel, which happened over a number of years. They knew. They had report after report, people getting things wrong. They were monitoring everything. They knew he wasn't very good. And yet, they kept employing him. They kept allowing him to open up people's heads and remove things, poke things around, give it a good stir with a spoon, effectively. Somebody has to answer for this. Last month, the First Minister refused to rule out a public inquiry, a position he was said to have reiterated at a meeting with Theresa Mallet, 61, who was left with life-changing injuries after undergoing botched surgery for sciatica. However, just days later, another campaigner, Jules Rose, was told by Mr Matheson that the government wanted to go in a different direction. That direction being the let's not have an inquiry because it would make us look stupid and inefficient and therefore embarrassing. That's what the direction was. Now, this is a terrible thing. Miss Rose, 55, who had a tear duct removed by Eljamel instead of a brain tumour, accused the Scottish Government of paying lip service to victims. So she went in for a brain tumour operation and he removes her tear duct from her eye. What is wrong with the man? It's got to be deliberate, because nobody is going to be in a position to do this sort of thing unless it was deliberate, surely. Anyway, she met with Mr Matheson earlier this month to demand a public inquiry, but in a follow-up letter, the Health Secretary said he would instead commission a senior legal professor to consider concerns about the Eljamel case. Doesn't want an inquiry because an inquiry would widen the scope and would show that the NHS was way worse under the SNP than what everybody currently thinks it is. And boy, do people know, never mind think, how bad it is. He claimed this would include the links between individual patients' experiences, the clinical professional and related corporate governance with processes within NHS Tayside and other organisations involved, which sounds to me like BS. It sounds corporate, let's give you an answer without telling you anything speak. It would also look at the wider learning from the scandal. What the hell is wider learning? You know, so it's whenever these tragedies happen, they will say, oh, lessons will be learned. No, lessons are never learnt because it happens again and again and again. The only way lessons are ever learned is if you take the people responsible and put them in jail for 20 years. Let me tell you, lessons will be learnt then. Anyway, Miss Rose from Kinross says, this falls short of the public inquiry she and other survivors want. She posted the letter on Twitter and said, lies, deflection, more lies. Yousaf is caught out telling porkies again. And I've said on this channel many, many times, the SNP, they lie again. And when they're caught out lying, they lie to your face to get out of the lies they've told. It's all they know. They must never tell the truth. It's impossible for them. They cannot do it. Explaining her position to the Scottish Express, the teaching assistant said the government was actually playing into our hands, as every time they say something, they trip themselves up, which shows how much they cannot be trusted. Of course they can't. They are all crooks. Every single one of them is a liar. Every single one of them is corrupt. She said Mr. Matheson had lost control of the situation and said a public inquiry would allow repeated patterns of failure to be detected within the NHS Tayside, and also at that point into the wider NHS across the whole of Scotland, and even hopefully it can trickle down in the whole of the United Kingdom. From little things grow big, you know, was it from little acorns mighty oaks do grow, and this could have a massive effect. Miss Rose also pointed out that she and another victim, Pat Kelly, had already given their stories 13 months ago, but that had not led to any outcomes or recommendations. She added, we're happy to wait several years. In fact, as long as it takes. Well, you might be, but there'll be patients out there dying. So really the answers have to come quickly. Patients have already been waiting 15 years or so. So another 5 is not going to matter. It is a deflection tactic. This isn't about Eljamel anymore. If you listen to Humza Yousaf, he keeps coming back to Eljamel. But this is about accountability for the health board, and then ultimately to the SNP government. This is all to the point of the SNP government. Miss Rose was talking on the same day. Miss Mallet from Glenrothes opened up about her confronting Mr. Yousaf at the recent SNP convention. That was the lady who sort of accosted him and he had to come down onto the floor and talk to her. The independent supporter created headlines when she challenged the First Minister for his government's failures to act. Oh, that's all they do. They don't act. They can talk a good game, but they can't walk the walk. Speaking to The Guardian, she said, I was listening to Humza and he came out with something like every person in Scotland counts. I felt enraged and I just started shouting at him. 11 years of trauma and pain, of getting no answers, being gaslit by doctors. That all came out. And there's more to come. Where my voice came from, I don't know. I'm usually easygoing, but I'm glad I got it out. And we're all glad you got it out. It embarrassed him, which is always good. The Scottish Tories used the final FMQs of the Holyrood session to call for a public inquiry last month. Scottish Conservative MSP for Mid-Scotland and Fife, Liz Smith, said Miss Rose's reaction to Mr. Matheson's letter leaves no room for doubt about the anger that Sam Eljamel's patients rightly feel about their treatment. She added the suffering that they endured because of his disgraceful actions has been compounded by deflection and prevarication from the SNP government. Humza Yousaf and Michael Matheson must stop their evasion and give Eljamel's patients what they want and deserve, which is a public inquiry into this appalling scandal. The Scottish Government has been approached for comment, but they have not made one because they are so damn embarrassed. They refuse the inquiry because they know they are culpable. This has all happened completely under the SNP's watch, and these people know it, and Humza Yousaf knows it, and everyone in the SNP knows it, which is why the last thing they want is for the truth to come out at an inquiry. And I am coming up. If it was just 1 or 2 people, it would be appropriate to have an investigation within the hospital or so. If it was a few more, maybe it should go up to board level. But we're talking hundreds of people here, hundreds of families ruined, destroyed by what this butcher has done to them. Of course it's a public inquiry. Who appointed him? Who was overseeing him? Who was monitoring the outcomes of all his operations? Why was this not picked up? Why was this not reported? Why was the health secretary at the time, or many health secretaries at the time, not informed of these things and not taking action? Ultimately, this is down to Humza Yousaf. He is the one in the big chair. It's up to him. For him to deny a public inquiry is for him to basically help cover up what is a massive medical malfeasance. Is that what he wants his legacy to be? The man who destroys families, who covers up butchers, who allows these people to do these things? I think it probably is, because I don't think he cares. I think he's as much a psychopath as Sturgeon. He's just not a very effective one. He's a total moron. But that is the effect of what he's doing. Can he not see how damaging it is, what the optics are to not allow an inquiry? He's more concerned with how bad the inquiry will make the SNP. He needs to consider how bad it looks not having the inquiry. It's almost as though the SNP are complicit. And I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. If you like what you're seeing here on the channel, do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment, please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and always check the record of anyone who's going to do an operation on you, especially if it's an NHS hospital under the SNP. And goodbye.